In 2024, democracy could fall off a cliff. That's a quote from Nobel Peace Prize winner and ICFJ awardee, Maria Ressa. She says that because next year will be unprecedented in election history. More than 2.5 billion people in 81 countries are going to the polls to elect their leaders, including in some of the world's largest democracies, India, Indonesia, Mexico, and of course here in the US. As campaigns intensify, so will disinformation efforts designed to sway these elections and spread lies at a scale we have really never before witnessed. And let's be clear, journalists are on the front lines in the battle for democracy. And at ICFJ, we believe it is mission critical to help journalists use every tool at their disposal to combat the spread of mis and disinformation. Let's watch a video narrated by journalist Nikita Roy about how ICFJ and the journalists in our network are making a real difference.
Disinformation is more sophisticated and harmful than ever before. I am one of the thousands of journalists working to fight it with ICFJ's help. My news outlet serves the Indian diaspora, a population of 32 million people living in the US and elsewhere across the world. To help our users spot lies and stop their spread, my team and I built a chatbot on WhatsApp, media literacy skills for the digital age. Others are revealing the inner workings of disinformation campaigns. Laura Sofia Matiz and her team uncovered how a company recruited social media users in Colombia, Guatemala, and Mexico to sway elections, promising just $10 to $20 for certain political posts.
It's important to analyze and determine how these people is making profits based on misinformation, because it's not just affecting normal people, but it's also affecting how we are going to find the world in our democracies in the next 10 or 15 years.
The investigation was part of an ICFJ program that trained, mentored, and funded cross-border teams. Another team's reporting on disinformation targeting migrants in Mexico on their way to the US was published by the Associated Press and picked up by more than 100 news outlets. Across the Atlantic, in the capital of the Central African Republic, some people see Wagner Group mercenaries from Russia as saviors, hired by the CAR government to quell extremist uprisings. Journalist Philip Obaji Jr. is pushing back against the propaganda despite threats to his life. Obaji has uncovered as many as 100 human rights abuses.
What the Kremlin is doing is that it is exploiting Africa and the natural resources on the continent to fund the war in Ukraine. If we don't expose what Russia is doing in Africa, it could get worse for Africans and indeed for the entire world.
Zahra Nader is also fighting lies. From exile in Canada, the media founder has built a network of mostly women reporters in her home country of Afghanistan. In just a year, the journalists on the ground helped publish more than 90 investigations and 200 news articles, risking their lives to do so. After the Taliban returned to power in 2021, women led peaceful protests, but their brave acts were met with torture and even murder. Nader and her colleagues documented this pattern, tracking down witnesses who saw Taliban gunmen dump bodies on the street. Nader, who is receiving equipment and training from ICFJ, is motivated by her own experience fleeing the Taliban as a child.
It's very, very personal for me because I can see myself being in Afghanistan and I can feel the suffering and pain of the people, and especially women journalists, because I was a woman journalist there.
The thousands of journalists in the ICFJ network, like Nader, Obaji, and Matiz, are battling censorship, propaganda, and disinformation. Their efforts come as artificial intelligence threatens to supercharge lies, and as elections in dozens of countries determine the fate of democracy. But in this fight for the truth, those of us working to deliver trustworthy, essential news are not alone. Thanks to ICFJ and supporters like you.
So as you saw there, these are just a few of the journalists that ICFJ serves, more than 160,000 of them across the globe. We believe in the power of networks to counter an increasingly siloed and polarized world. Our Pamela Howard Forum on Global Crisis Reporting helps thousands of members cover the critical issues of our time for their local audiences. We fostered an investigative reporting network in Latin America that has exposed almost $40 billion in stolen and mismanaged public funds. And now we're building a similar network across Southeast Asia. We help journalists collaborate to harness AI for good. We help media entrepreneurs work together to create new business models. We conduct research into much-needed new ways to deepen trust with audiences. As we watch the tragedy unfold in the Middle East, we are all relying on so many journalists to help us understand this crisis. I was a reporter based in Jerusalem for nearly 4 years. I saw the way bad journalism can inflame tensions. Good journalism can help us make decisions informed by facts, not vitriol. This is hard work, but it is work that we at ICFJ are committed to doing in the Middle East and everywhere. And of course, we couldn't do any of this without your support.